Today is day 7 of our Viking Portugal River of Gold vacation. And this morning we're off to the village of Flavaios to check out the wine industry there, as well as check out the town, the bakery, the museum, and then off to a quinta for lunch and a wine tasting before returning back to the boat. But the highlight of the day was the beautiful scenery that we see in the Douro Valley. The village of Flavaios is located 2,000 feet above sea level in the Douro Valley region, and it has a population of 1,500 inhabitants who still practice the traditional ways of making bread and wine. Our visit to Flavaios started with a tour of the winemaking cooperative, which all the local growers belong to. Before 1950, Portugal had a law that above 500 feet you cannot produce fortified wines, such as port. This damaged the wine industry in this area, so the town then formed a cooperative and made table wines. The producers then petitioned the government to allow them to make fortified wines in 1952. In this area, the farmers harvest their own vineyards and then bring the harvest to the cooperative to make the wine. This cooperative is producing 7 million liters of wine a year. The cooperative has currently 500 farmers or owners, and they produce 35 million bottles of wine a year. However, 25 million bottles are the single-serve size. The first step in the operation is the farmers pick their grapes and they bring them in their trucks to the local cooperative where their weight is measured and the sugar content is determined. And it's the sugar content and the weight that determines the value of their crop. Most of the grapes grown in this area are Muscat, and they're used to make Muscatel wines. High-quality grapes have higher sugar content and are used in the production of the fortified wine, here known as Muscatel. Lower-quality grapes with lower sugar content are used to make other products such as sparkling wines. Between the cooperative members, they have over 1,000 hectares of grapes grown in this area. And in this area, no artificial irrigation is used. Instead, they rely primarily on the limestone ground, otherwise known as schist. And schist is a soft stone which allows the roots of the trees or the grapevines to actually penetrate to find water. Now, Muscatel is similar in taste to port, and both are fortified wines. However, Muscatel only uses one type of grape, whereas port wines use a minimum of 3 types of grapes. At the cooperative today, we were able to observe the entire manufacturing process. So after the farmers drop off their grapes where the weight is measured and the sugar content determined, the grapes are put into a centrifuge, and that centrifuge uses centrifugal force to separate the stems from the grapes. The next step is pressing. The grapes are crushed to produce juice by mechanical means since they don't have enough feet in the village to crush this amount of grapes. They then filter the juice and place it in tanks where a natural yeast is added. For sweet fortified Muscatel, they let the grapes ferment for 3 days and then stop the fermenting process by adding brandy, known as aquadante or firewater. The fermentation process generates an alcohol content of between 2 and 3%, but the addition of the brandy, which is 77% alcohol, raises the alcohol level to a minimum of 17%. Generally, it lies between 17 and 19%. They then store the Muscatel in large stainless steel tanks for a minimum of 3 years before bottling. Some of the tanks had a capacity of 500,000 liters. They buy the brandy from Spain, Portugal, and France to make the fortified wine. For the more expensive and higher quality Muscatel, they age the wine in oak barrels to achieve the desired flavors. A minimum of 3 years in a barrel is required, but some production is stored for 20 plus years. Following our tour, we had a wine tasting of the 3-year-old product. I must say it was quite good. So before our tasting, our tour guide decided to tell us a little bit about their single serving size wine bottles here, and he said they're quite popular with the students because they're inexpensive and plus they mix it with beer. He doesn't recommend that combination, but you can imagine why the students like it because it's actually a cheap way to get a little high, I guess, or a little drunk, if you want to put it bluntly. And it's the reason they sell 35 million bottles of wine a year, because 25 million bottles are the single serving size. So now we're going to have the opportunity to try their most common or most popular fortified wine, and that's their Muscatel here. So we'll give that a go.
Susan?
And now for our tastings of their classic Muscatel.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And while you enjoy it, I want to show you now the aged version of our Muscatel, because as you may imagine, we have in here some very special wines aged inside the cellar. We have some examples over here on the table.
Here we go, Muscatel.
Was it good? You got it. So this one, being the youngest, it's already a wine.
Very good, just like port, but not allowed to be called port.
2007. These wines, they are all of them still aging, and we just bottle them every single year, as we need to keep selling them as well. Alright, we bottle just a few, around 200 or 300 bottles per year, so not many, because they are all of them very limited editions, very small productions, and we have to sort of restrict the number of bottles per year, otherwise the wines would be gone in a few months or in a year, and we don't want that. Alright, so this one, it's a recent addition to these very special wines. It just got here like a month ago. It was bottled for the first time a month ago, so it's a wine that is very special because it spent already 18 years inside old French oak barrels. Alright, so if you look around, like I said, the French oak is by far the main kind of oak we are using, and if you look around, most of them are really made out of French oak. Alright, and that's what we use as well for the harvest of 2000. Alright, so our second youngest wine, but already a very special wine, because with it we went to a contest 3 years ago in 2022, and we got the second place among the top 10 best muscatels of the entire world. That's how good this wine is, alright? We got the second place, which is quite good. I think we have to be proud of that, right? But I think you should know that the contest that we went to, it was a French contest. So I think you can guess. Just gonna make it like that. I'm gonna move on for the next one, alright, to show you now the harvest of 99. As you can see, they were back-to-back very good years, 2099, but they are very different. Even though they are very close in age, they were aged in a quite different way, and that changed the wine completely. Okay, so for the 2000, only French oak, alright, and the main flavors are around some sort of cinnamon, some spices, some vanilla as well. But for the 99, we also used the French oak for most part of the time, but in the last months of the aging process, we used as well some cognac barrels, okay? So we bought them to reuse the cognac barrels, so the flavors were still very fresh on the inside of the barrel, and now they are mixed with Muscatel, and that turned out great. It's really a very special, very unique wine, the harvest of 99, because of the way it was aged. It just changed the wine completely. Alright, so very special.
This is the single serving of Flavito, and they sold 35 million bottles of this. And again, it's one serving of wine. A lot of students buy it, and they will mix beer because they want to extend their purchasing power, I guess. But these are their favorite vintages here. 2007, 2000, 1999, 1989, and this one, 1980, which was the championship version that they had of the Muscatel. So now that we've sampled some of their wares, we're off to the Flavaios gift shop, and those of us who are interested had the opportunity to purchase some of the wines that we just tried. One of the great things about Viking cruises is that you're allowed to bring alcohol on board and have it at any time. They have no objection to that, which is very unlike the ocean cruises you go on. After leaving the store, we had a short walk to the bakery, and that's where we're going to try some traditional breads that they make in the village here. And in this particular area, they make a four-corner. We are going to a bread maker. There's supposed to be 7 bakeries here, and they make approximately 6,000 loaves of bread every single day. And for a town of 1,000, you have to ask yourself, where does all that bread go? Well, it goes to all the surrounding villages. And this is historical. They've been making bread here for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Now the building here is an old schoolhouse. The interesting thing about it is it has women's entrance and boys' entrances. So sexto masculino on this side. Looks like it's now a post office. There's the school bell and sexo masculino. And apparently back in 30s, 40s, 50s, when they had the dictator here, Salazar, they built all these schools because he wanted to educate the population. And this is a primary school. They did continue to separate boys from girls. So we're hiking with Viking to the bakery. So this is Casa das Pedreiras, the bakery. smell the bread baking right now. So a nice old building. Looks like dried wall, dry laid. But modern doors.
Hello guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
Bom dia.
Bom dia. So the first thing you see coming into the main area of the bakery is pictures of the 7 different bakers from this particular area. And now our demonstration from one of the bakers on how they make their famous 4-corner bread. And the 4-corner bread is only made in this particular town, Flavaios or Flavaios. I'm sure I've got the pronunciation wrong, but anyways, this 4-corner bread is unique to this particular village, and it's what they're known for.
So quick. We're easy for her. I think she done it before. But I can say it's really difficult because I'm telling from my practical experience that I did. I did it around for 20 minutes. And unfortunately I made 6 corners. It is. The 4 corners bread, ladies and gentlemen.
Thumbs up. So after they form the 4-corner bread, they then store it in this pine drawer here, and they let it rise covered for about 25 to 35 minutes before putting it in the oven. And then if the oven is warm, it takes between 10 and 15 minutes to bake the bread.
Okay, Portugal. The 4 corners that we have, these 4 corners, they represent 4 things from this village Flavaios. So we have people, we have family, we have bread, and we have wine. So people, family, bread, and wine.
People, family,
Also,
bread,
if
and
we're
wine.
talking about the shape, we can say this shape that came from Roman times because this village is covered by Roman Empire. So in that moment, the Roman they actually played a key role in this area, especially in the baking techniques. So our bakers they also got inspired by that. Another thing that I like to mention, and that's my personal favorite, apart from the game controller, is very easy to break and share. That's what I'm going to do with you right now, because sharing is caring.
That's in the bread. Quite good, actually. Nice and fresh and warm.
Everyone has a break, so please you can study the conversation.
Tractors in the heart of the village. Beautiful town. So now we're heading out to the Bread and Wine Museum. Get to walk through the town, and this is actually a natural spring water coming out of this fountain. And a beautiful church. Bom dia.
Bom dia.
It looks like an old church here. And they got a shell there as well on the door. I'm wondering if this is part of the Compostela as well. This will be our 3rd stop in the village of Flavaios. And this is the Bread and Wine Museum. So this museum is dedicated to talk about the cultural heritage of Flavaios, especially the bread and wine industries here. Museum here, we're learning all about why Muscatel is grown here from the 1800s on. It was brought by the Spanish, this particular white grape. Perfect soil conditions, obviously soil conditions and atmosphere or environment has a large impact on the flavors that you get. Historically, everything was done by hand. The grapes were picked and carried to the wineries in these types of baskets on the men's backs. put into presses, stamped by feet, and then stored. And then the Muscatel, they added brandy, or in grape, which is basically the grape skins and stems that they would ferment to make like an 80 or 77% alcohol. And that would end the fermentation. And then they would let it sit for a minimum of 3 years. Some is stored in stainless steel, but the better varieties of Muscatel are stored in wooden barrels. That gives it a unique flavor. And it can be in those for 3 to 20 years longer. The better it's stored in the barrel, the better the taste. At least that's what they say. So that was the wine section of the museum, and now we're going into the bread section of the museum. In this room, they discuss how wheat was grown and threshed to separate the seeds or the grain from the ears of the wheat, and that was done through threshing. And then it was taken and made into flour in a mill. Sieving later became where they took out the coarser pieces, kneading the bread, because there's 4 components of bread, which is salt, water, flour, and yeast. And so they had to knead it. They rested it in these big troughs, and then they cut it into quarters. And here's an example of the trough where they used to have it rest. So once the bread is made, or the dough is rested and allowed to raise, they then mold it into the 4 corners bread, which is traditional here. They let it store again to let it rise. So disposing, so molding, disposing, and then baking in an oven. Typical temperatures around 350 to 400 degrees C, and that is a finished loaf. And then it's distributed. So they're making about 3,500 loaves of bread here in this town. They only have 1,000 to 1,500 people here. So whatever's not consumed in the town is then sent to the associated villages. And that is the museum. See a milling stone here. Obrigado. So after our tour of the museum, we got back on our bus and we headed over to a quinta where we were going to have another wine tasting as well as lunch. And it was really interesting because we had to go down these really narrow roads to reach the farm. Tell you, our bus driver needs to be extremely careful to navigate this lot of So we're at the quinta, and we're going to grab lunch here. And I think we'll have a little bit of Muscatel while we're here. Some beautiful pictures of the boats. These are probably the Rebello boats that they use to transport the wine down the Douro Valley all the way to Villa de Gaia where they were stored. This looks like a beautiful place, all these limestone buildings. Muscatel?
Si.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bom dia.
Bon dia. We have meat too, you can try. It's too much food for you.
So we are at Quinta da Aviesada. It's a beautiful spot. We're waiting for the rest of the buses to get here so we can all sit down together and have our lunch. A beautiful fountain here. So in for lunch with some music.
mountain Quinta Abasada. And in this part, we are going to be experienced with our traditional lunch.
Lunch today is in the Quinta Asada dining room. They started off with serving us their white and red house wines here. And the grapes for the white are grown locally, but the red are grown in the Douro Valley. And the reason they do that is this particular winery is above 600 feet above sea level. And Muscatel grapes are the best ones grown in this area, and they're the white grapes. And that's what's used in Muscatel, or as they say here, Muscatel. So they're starting off by serving some sort of appetizer. I'll take it though. So what is it?
The sausage ball.
Sausage ball. Okay. So an appetizer of sausage balls is what we're getting.
But beforehand, I have to tell you what actually happened in 160 years before in Douro Valley. It was that moment that appeared a flea invaded in our vines and ate all the roots of the vines. And this flea, we called it phylloxera. So phylloxera destroyed our everything, destroyed our every vineyards. So for that reason, every family, every farmers wanted to move to another place by selling their everything. But at that point appeared a very important lady, and her name was Dona Antonia Ferreira. But in Portugal we called her Ferreirinha. So when the lady saw this catastrophe that every family wanted to move to another place, she told to everyone, "Don't leave your land, don't sell anything. I have wine." By the way, she was the big wine producer in that moment. She told to everyone, "With my wine, I will give you food." So she ordered to make a soup in a big steel pot to give all the villages around the Douro Valley, including our village Flavaios that you visited earlier in the morning. What do you think? This is a happy village, right? We have wine, we have bread, what we need more? It was that soup that even in your days, we have 46,000 farmers that they live in a very small villages around the Douro Valley, made this valley like a golden garden. Oh, it was that soup that make us strong in Bailey House. That we are going to serve you next. We made the soup like the lady made in a big steel pot. I hope this soup make you stronger, give you strength to continue tour for so many years, for many years, because we hope to see you in here in another occasion. So please enter the soup.
So this is a vegetable soup, a puree, I guess.
The soup.
Good.
Good? Did you enjoy?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to tell you another story. And this time the story about the god. The youngest god from Mountain Olympus, and that god start making this liquid but without authorization from all the god. And his name is Bacchus. Do you know Bacchus? He is my best friend. Sometimes. So one day Bacchus climbed top of the mountain for getting authorization for making this liquid, and in front of each god he said, "My god, this liquid, we call it wine. And this wine, it will awake all of your five senses. Then Zeus, the god of all gods, stand up and he said, oh, my five senses. I don't believe that. Show us this that you called wine. Then Bacchus put in front of each god a glass of white or red wine, and he said, please, my god, pick that glass. So please, let's become a god for a while, and start with the first sense, that is the touch. Oh my god, I need your help. Can you pick your own wine glass for a while to help me to do the ceremony, please? Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, now with me. Oh my God. Please, see the color. Wow, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Oh my God.
Please, feel the smell. OMG.
Oh my God.
Please, feel the taste. Then Zeus, the god of all gods, stood up once again and he said, oh Bacchus, you fooled me. You said my five senses, but I only feel it four. Then Bacchus answered, oh my
God.
I'm so sorry, but I forgot. The sound of cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Oh my God, it was the ceremony, and after this ceremony, Bacchus got authorization for making wine and show human being how to make this. And until our day, we are doing the same way, and I hope this will go many more years. So thank you so much. Now enjoy the main course. Cheers to all. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Now the main dish. Right here. Not here. Is it pork or beef?
This is beef, is mashed potatoes with veal and green beans.
Okay, thank you. Well, that looks good. So for the main course, we had a pot roast with mashed potatoes and vegetables, and while we ate, we were serenaded by this accordion player. So I must admit, with the food, the wine, some music, and our MC who made it quite humorous introductions, this has been a lot of fun. And finally, some dessert, chocolate cake. There we go. Well, looks like a pear and some fruit. Just had lunch at Avisada, our Quinto de Avisada. And now we're going to go into their hand-painted art gift shop. And they've got some really large wine barrels here. So, Avisada. Looks like they got an old cork machine, some buckets, and some big barrels here. It's a nice building.
This is pretty. Wouldn't that be pretty? The candles? I know, huh? This is the gift shop. Well, that's just pretty cool.
I think you should buy one of these. One of the big barrels. We can,
You need one in your yard?
yeah, I think we can take it on the bus with us. Nice old stone building. So this is some of the wines they're making here. They actually have a 10-year-old Tommy Port.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful building, isn't it?
Just the scenery with all the vineyards, all on slopes, some on terraces. You can see some olive trees way in the distance here. Just very nice. Portugal cultivates every square inch, it seems like, up the hills and down, right through the valleys. So after lunch, we loaded back onto our bus and we headed back to the ship. But on the way there, we had probably the best, most scenic drive I think I've ever had. Just lots of vineyards and olive orchards everywhere. And looking down into the valley at the river was just spectacular. I really, really enjoyed this. And I'll have to say that if you are doing this trip, the ride back, stay on the right-hand side of the bus. It was actually, I think, the best place to be. Incredible vistas. Douro Valley. So we're just making it through the town of Pinhao, and one of the things I wanted to show you is the train station here. It was just full of these azulejos on the wall there, and they're actually quite spectacular. Didn't have a chance to get off the boat and walk up here, but if I'm ever back in town, I will actually absolutely do this because they were quite spectacular. And what I liked about them is they're not religious themes like you find in the churches. It's just more of the landscapes here that you can see when you're driving through the mountains and looking down into the valley. It's exactly what you see there, just recreated in these blue tiles. fucking hell. So there's our Viking Hemming, and we're going to go back on board, and there's our Captain Tiago. Here we are in the lounge, and because we traveled on Viking once before, we are a member of the Viking Explorer Society. So they invite us all as Viking Explorer Society members to have a drink one day on our cruise, and they've lined up a whole number of different alcohols here that we can select from.
We'll start in 2 minutes, madam.
Sorry?
We'll start in 2 minutes, 6:15.
Oh, beg your pardon. I'm so sorry.
That's alright. Just for the people make the pictures with the table.
So here are all the drinks they're offering us tonight. We can have one of each, right?
Yes, before the dinner.
Looks fantastic.
Sit next to me or do you want to sit there?
Now we can start the table up.
Now we can? Okay.
Thank you, Tiago.
Thank you
So yes, right now Ali and Andy, they are serving you what we call aquavits. So if you'd like to just smell it, you can. Just wait for the toast so we can all try together. So what is exactly aquavit? There is more than 100 types of aquavit around in the Norwegian area. But on the Viking ship, we only serve this one. Just a moment. Sorry. So, what you are drinking is exactly this, aquavit linear. Why aquavit linear? Well, first of all, aquavit comes from a Latin word that says water of life. Linear is all related to the story. How did this bottle, how this aquavit was prepared? So it all happened 200 years ago. We had someone in India that wanted to order aquavit, and they did. They asked aquavit when they opened the cask. Well, in this case, when it reached India, they didn't accept it. So they sent it back to Oslo. So on the trip to India, it crossed the equator line once. On the trip to Oslo, it crossed the equator line a second time. So that's why it says linear, because from that voyage, it crossed the equator line twice. When it reached Oslo, they opened the cask and they found out that the smell had changed, the taste had changed, the color had changed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in their opinion, it made it better. After 8 years, I still don't like it at all. Well, also, this is a tradition that started 200 years ago. Right now, at this moment, we still have this tradition. So all these bottles, they are put on the ships from Oslo, they cross the equator line twice, and then they are sent to the Viking ships. So if you go to any Viking ship, you'll see a bottle exactly like this one. They all have a different date, and a different date that they start the journey, and a different date when they return back to Oslo, which is possible to see inside the bottle. Well, it's still, we didn't serve enough, that's why you cannot see at the moment. But nowadays, this aquavit is still present in the Scandinavian culture. When? During Christmas dinner. So when the family is gathering around the table, they take all a sip of this drink. Well, I always say a sip, you should not take as a shot, because if you do as a shot, it's your own responsibility. Okay? I warn you, now you decided, okay? But of course, now we are going to cheer, and for that our captain will do the honor. So ladies and gentlemen, Captain Tiago.
Thank you, Oriana. Very good evening, everyone. So after a long day like this, all we need is a shot of aquavit, yeah? And I share a little bit of Ariana's opinion. I don't really like it. But a contract is a contract. Yeah, you know? So I was Googling and I found out this is made with caraway, it's made with seeds. So it's gluten-free and sugar-free. So it's probably the healthiest thing that we're gonna drink tonight, yeah? So let's do the toast and finish with my suffering, please.
Yeah.
Do you know how they toast in Scandinavian?
No.
Very good. Skål!
So with our Aquavit toast, we've now been inducted into the Explorers Club, that Vikings Explorer Club. You have to have gone on at least one Viking cruise before, and then you're invited to the lounge where you get to sample some cocktails and then have a toast with our Aquavit. And once you've done that, you are now a Viking Explorer. So, skål everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe.